Mother, man.
It's Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. And you are listening to Murder Metal
Spreading
Mayhem.
faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem!
All right.
What is going on, motherfucker?
Fuck yeah, man. It's Tuesday, doing that thing we do on Tuesday. A little Ari from First Jason.
Yeah.
From Friday the 13th doing that intro for us. It was fun meeting him at that
Yeah, it was
Dark History
it was pretty
convention.
cool, man. It was pretty cool.
Good dude.
Checking out his band with the Kisheti.
Yeah, yeah, the machete with the guitar, yeah, or as a guitar. It's fucking insane. He's a great dude. Well, we're doing that Tuesday thing again. We got a good one to do tonight. Definitely anxious to get to it. So we got Joey Goremonger in here as
What's
if
up,
he's
homie?
just part of the fucking furniture. But
Basically since March.
yeah,
Pretty
really,
much,
it's
yeah.
true.
Literally,
and it's
fuck
nice
yeah.
to have you here with us again, Joey. This should be a good one. Last week was badass. We had a really good one with that Tyler Hadley shit, Chris. Wow.
Yeah, that kid fucking drugs.
Yeah, him and Ricky Casso would have been a good fucking
Right,
wow.
no shit.
Yeah.
Could you imagine those two as a fucking spree killing combination?
Jesus
oh my
Christ,
god,
man.
But Tyler with that hammer smash fucking parents of his did some crazy shit, and it was a brutal one, that's for sure. We were over 900 listens so far, closing in on 1,000 to that, so that's awesome. And we had CK talking about nuclear assault, which was awesome, huh, Joey?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely old school.
Yep.
He's been going some old school stuff lately, which is awesome. We had him on through the rest of the show like we always do, and it was his 100th show, which
His
is awesome.
personal 100th show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he came in on the 5th episode, so 100th episodes with CK, which was fucking killer. So if you missed it, go check out episode 105 on Tyler Hadley. Now this week we selected a little bit more of a general feature. We've done things different before. You know, instead of one case, Chris, we thought we would just kind of talk about spree killers because
Right,
it's
in
kind
general.
of a cool topic. You know, it's kind of that just wild rampage shit.
like what the fuck
going
is
multiple
going on in your head,
sites,
dude?
yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, mass murderers are fucked up, but the spree killers just adds a whole new, adds the drifter thing in there
Right.
in a way, and it can get interesting. And of course, what gave me the idea, it was in November when I interviewed Dr. Ramsland, Dr. Katherine Ramsland. She said that she had written a book that was getting ready to come out, and this is already out now, but on spree killers. And I thought, that might be kind of an interesting topic. You
Just
know?
in general, yeah.
Kind of wrote it down in a note somewhere, and I was going through stuff, and I was like, you know what, that would be cool. Added it to the list. And
here we
sure
are.
enough, you know,
Here
months
we are.
later, it becomes a topic. So she was gracious enough to talk to us for about 45 minutes. We talked with her mostly about spree killers.
Yeah, a couple of times, mostly about spree killers and certain spree killers. Some of them are in our episode tonight. So
Right,
fuck
yeah. So it's really cool. And so she's definitely a very, very well-respected person in the field of forensic psychiatry. She's a doctor or a college professor, author. She's doing Murder House Flip and all sorts of
Did you
other
watch
shit.
that?
Jenny downloaded Quibi, but I haven't watched them yet.
No, yeah,
I need to
I
though,
have
because I
watched
want to
them.
check it
Pretty
out.
badass, dude. It's pretty cool.
So she's a very interesting person. Now, we're going to play part of that interview tonight. I've got it set up in 2 clips. One's about 10 minutes long. One's about 14 minutes long. And you get to hear us talk with Dr. Ramsland. Now, if you're in that 666 club,
You got
you've
the whole
already got
interview.
the whole...
The whole interview.
Yeah, you
The
can
whole
hear the
thing.
whole 45 minutes with Dr. Ramsland. So that's a good reason to go to our Patreon page and join the 666 Club. And check out that episode description for the link to join today. It's only $3 a month. We'll talk about it more later. but it's some VIP access to the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast, and it helps pay the bills because there's bills to pay here, hosting and different things that we're doing. So we appreciate the help.
Upgrade equipment, all that shit that we need to do to make it sound better,
That's
make it come out better.
And things like when laptops go poop.
Laptops get destroyed.
I got that coming up here. Now we got a good killer cage match to get to tonight. Chris, we got a good one. What do you think of this matchup?
Ted Bundy and Timothy McVeigh. It's kind of an interesting fucking
That
topic.
should get pretty wild, man.
Right. And fucking McVeigh just blowing shit up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one. And Joey, we got some listeners to thank this time around.
Yeah. Today we want to thank Cody Durst, Nikki Judy, and Aaron Stewart for supplying the numbers.
Very cool. Yeah, we get those on Facebook. And, man, Cody Durst has been on there a lot, man. I wonder if he's related to Fred. I don't know.
Surely.
Or either that or maybe he just legally changed his name because he's such a big Limp Bizkit fan. I don't know.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Could be. So they're going to be fighting to the death with some funny objects that we're going to throw at them in the Mayhem segment, Chris, as always. That bell rings, man. The shit's on.
Dun,
And
dun,
tonight,
dun.
Bundy and McVeigh with two good objects and a variable, so it should be fun. Thanks to Tony Campagna, spellboundeffectsandart.com, just crushing that shit. Chris, I mean, we look at this stuff every week. It's on the table. It's amazing. It's artwork that's made to look like human skin sewn together and shit, lampshade.
And it sure the fuck does. And every time a new person, I show them a picture of one of them, they're like, what the fuck, man? That's insane, dude.
I know. And if you go on his website, spellboundeffectsandart.com, he's got an awesome online catalog. You can order shit. Sends it out quick. Knows how to ship it, too. It's very secure.
Packaged awesome.
It's amazing. So Tony is a great dude and a great artist. He's a sponsor of the show. So go check out spellboundeffectsandart.com.
This new dude that just started at work about a couple weeks ago, somebody had mentioned to him that we did the podcast, and he asked about it, and I told him what it was. He started listening to it, and he asked, like, you guys keep mentioning this spike. What the hell is that? And I was like, hold on a minute, I'll show you. Fucking finished what I was doing, pulled it up on my phone and showed it to him and shit. And he's like, dude, that's fucking crazy. Awesome, man. I was like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's badass.
That is awesome. Yeah, there's somebody that my daughter knows through her job that saw her last name and said, are you related to Pete? And she's like, yeah, that's my dad. And she's like, well, that's crazy. I just started listening to his podcast.
Hell yeah.
So figure the odds on that.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Weird. And she said she was just stumbling around and found it and started listening to it, was jamming it out, and then apparently had her younger brother with her and was like, ooh, because some of the subject matter.
Yeah.
So definitely not kid friendly. But so we had some drama I had some drama last week, actually this past weekend, with the laptop that we use to record the podcast, do all our business. I mean, I'm doing most of it on that. Also my writing. And thankfully I had good backups because we had some... something got spilled on it. It was obviously an accident, but shit happens. And the number keys were all fucked up, and yeah, it was a mess. So I had to get another laptop, and hopefully we'll get that one fixed too. So we'll have another laptop. But anyway, got this new Beast 17-inch monitor, nice.
Yeah, it's fucking nice.
HP. So definitely digging on this one. And so a good example of why that 666 Club helps, because laptops aren't free, as anybody knows, and it's
any kind of help from the fans, any kind of support's fucking amazing. Help out with shit. We appreciate it.
So we got a good one tonight. Definitely a lot on our plate, Chris. We got maniacs with a fucking axe to grind, roaming those streets looking for some fresh victims. So
let's go get our spree killing murder on.
Fuck yeah, man.
Fucking Chrysix, man.
Hell yeah, Leech Breeder. That's a good one. Chris, that was the first song I remember you sent me a text with that link to that video.
Fucking A, man.
And that was the song, the music video, and I was like, wow, these guys are sick, man. I started checking them out. My son Joe, all about them too. So, and of course, they are the creators of the CK intro song.
Intro music,
so, great metal motherfucker.
Great metal.
So, love some Cry6, and that's a good song. And of course, we are doing a fucking brutal ass topic. Got Joey Goremonger in here with us to talk about it.
Yep.
Something about just fucking being in horns high and talking about fucking murder and chaos. And it just fucking fits, man. You got all this
like home.
blood and gore around us. It's just, it does seem like home. But some people walk in here, they're like, what the fuck? And I also noticed the spider webs up there.
Yeah,
Too.
yeah.
Getting,
I've
looks pretty sick.
This one's all right over here, hanging off the. I don't know if you can see it from where you're at.
I can't.
Right here. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
but
see it.
Those on the
above the banner. Yeah, there's some significant spider webs up there.
And with the
cool.
with the lights there, it makes it look fucking cool.
It makes it look pretty badass.
It is pretty sick. So it is a cool place to be.
And they keep the bugs out.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Spree Killers is the feature tonight. It's going to be a wild one. We got a variety of them to talk about. And we thought that would be a good way to do it instead of just talking about one. Now, there are a few we're going to mention that definitely will be feature segments later because there's just too much to talk about here.
As the subject, the spree subject and alone, you got to mention these people because they're pretty high profile.
And there's so many fucking cases that could go into this episode. We knew that we were just trying to kind of run through it, you know.
Right.
But as I'm writing these down, I'm like, man, some of these, you know, I'm gonna bring them up, but it's like, no, those deserve
their own fucking
episode. Yeah. Holy shit!
Oh yeah,
their own
it's some crazy stuff. And you know, I'm sure there'll be some you've heard of before that we talk about, and then some that you haven't. I guarantee you. The flamethrower guy with the spear,
damn, bro.
Nobody's heard of that dude except Dr. Katherine Ramsland.
She mentioned that.
She mentioned it like, what?
Fuck, dude?
A fucking spree killer with a flamethrower? What the fuck?
That's fucking insane,
crazy.
Man.
So definitely interesting topic, Chris, and kind of, to me, little reminded me of a Drifter Killers, you know, and something about it. We both kind of have a thing for the Drifters, you know, just
I don't know,
the randomness of it.
I think that's what it is, the randomness of it. Because one of the people we're going to bring up that we're doing, like, we're going to end up doing a full episode on, like, his randomness was just so insane. Just it didn't matter who the people were. He just doing it. Fucking Whitman, like, just random people didn't give a shit. Like other people, they knew what they were doing. Like they had specific targets, basically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely an interesting case and certainly worthy of his own segment.
Right.
Now, spree killers are often confused with mass murderers, and I was reading on this to get ready for this episode, and I really utilized the book by Dr. Vronsky that I've mentioned before. Peter Vronsky's written, to me, the quintessential book on serial killers. Right. Called Serial Killers, The Method and Madness of Monsters. Cannot tell you enough. If you're listening to this and you like this kind of shit, you have to own that book because it is so good. He talks about a lot of different cases, but he talks about the why and what makes these people tick. And a lot of the stuff we've talked about on Murder Metal Mayhem, I've gotten from that book. And there's stuff in this book that I don't get on the docs and some of the stuff I read. He definitely is digging deep on some of this stuff, and it's very, very interesting to me. And if it is interesting to you, you definitely need to pick up a copy of it. I'm not trying to sell his book. I'm just saying it's that good.
But go buy his book.
You should. You really should, because it's amazing. Now, the difference between a spree killer and a mass murderer, the mass murderer, you know, somebody snaps for a reason, and the murders are, you know, several people, but it's at one location, Chris, right? I mean, we talked about this in our meeting, and, you know, they snap for a variety of reasons. I mean, some of this shit is like typical, you know, lost the job, spouse left them.
Yeah, shit like
Child
that.
custody is a nasty one.
That seems to be
family disputes.
A terrible one right there.
Yeah.
The child custody. That's that some of those are just terrible. Why would you do that to?
It's awful. It really is. And some people are just really shitty to each other, and it's just terrible to see it. So that's a typical mass murderer, but a spree killer is very similar, but what they do is they are killing in multiple locations.
Right.
So like a Starkweather who's killing and then gets on the road and
goes
stops somewhere else.
But it's all within it could be like a couple hours or it could be a few days.
Right.
It's
Usually
all within
it's
a
not
very
that
short
long.
time period.
Yeah. I mean, there's one we're going to talk about that went on for almost, I think it was a couple weeks. That was probably one of the longest ones. But, they, Joey, I could see how the lines would blur for someone, because they are very similar.
Right.
And, I kind of liken it to the way metal has all the subgenres and people get all hung up on that.
Right.
It's like, it's fucking metal, dude.
Yeah.
Like, enough with the bullshit,
Right.
But don't you see it almost like that?
That's why I said whenever we came into, talking about this episode, I was like, man, some of the people who I, probably bring up throughout this wouldn't be really technically, spree killers might be more mass murderers, rampage killers, but the thing is the lines, like you said, they come close to blurring. I mean,
do.
We're going to talk about spree killers, and at the same time, you can't talk about Stephen Paddock, who in Vegas,
Right.
when you kill fucking 58 people, 850 injured. I mean,
Yeah, that
but
was
he did
brutal.
it from one room.
Right.
Right.
So
exactly.
technically, he's a mass murderer.
Right,
So yeah,
exactly.
there's those lines, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it seems like he was going on a spree with some guns.
Well, it
Yeah,
sure
definitely.
does. It sure does. And we're going to drift back and forth a little bit, but we are concentrating on the spree killers. But it's inevitable that we'll bring up some of the mass murderers along the way. And one that I question later, we'll talk about, that I think really blurs that line especially. So we'll talk about that.
Hell yeah.
Now, the DC Sniper combo, Chris, we covered that in its own episode. But those guys were kind of the cross between serial killer and spree killer. And Peter Vronsky discusses it in the book of that whole concept, because a serial killer will kill over a period of time, but there's that cooling off.
Yeah.
And they're able to kind of resume a normal life in between those periods.
Right, exactly. And as I recall, Dr. Ramsland mentions the same thing about the difference. Like, spree killers don't really have that cool off period.
Right. And the whole cubing thing that she talked about with BTK. But a serial killer can go from that to normal life, normal family. Guys like Gacy, BTK, classic examples. But the spree killers, since they don't really go back to the real world, they just stay in that mode.
Yeah.
And they keep on going until they're usually killed or they kill themselves. According to Dr. Peter Vronsky, about half of the mass murderers survive the rampage. The other half are either killed by police.
Right.
Or they kill themselves.
Right. And Chris, I think you mentioned in the interview with Dr. Ramsland,
Suicide by cop or whatever.
We talked about suicide with her. And that was such a fun interview, wasn't it? I mean, she's just a really cool lady.
She definitely,
Suicide's badass.
Suicide's badass.
So she wrote the book, as I mentioned. It's called Spree Killers, Practical Classifications for Law Enforcement and Criminology. So it's really more like a textbook. Was written with...
I don't think I could handle trying to read it, dude.
No, I was going to try to, but I just literally didn't have time, especially when the laptop drama happened Sunday. But the book was written with the former FBI profiler Mark Sararik. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It looks like Sararik.
Right.
Came out last year. She explains how the book came about in our interview and how they looked at the subject of spree killers. It's very interesting.
And everything they came up with.
Yeah, I mean, you just hear her talk about the subject. You can see that she's very passionate about it, and she just shows in the way she delivers, what she talks about. So let's listen to a clip, the first one from our interview with Dr. Katherine Ramsland, to hear what she says about that and other topics related to this. It's about 10 minutes long, so check this out. Okay, we have the privilege to be doing an interview with Dr. Katherine Ramsland, a writer and professor of forensic psychology. She's on just about every serial killer documentary out there, but somehow found the time in her schedule to talk to us here at Murder Metal Mayhem. I've got my co-host Chris Shaw back here with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramsland. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I thank you for having me back on the show.
Thanks again for doing the interview with us, and we're going to be doing an upcoming episode on spree killers, and I know you recently published a book on the subject. Can you tell us how that came about and tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, the book actually was almost accidental. It wasn't something you're planning, but this all kind of started for me when the FBI in 2005 decided to no longer use the nomenclature spree killers for one of the classifications of multicides or multiple murders. And they thought the reason they were doing that is because they didn't think it really had any practical use for law enforcement. As teaching criminology and forensic psychology, I could see that there was still a lot of good reason to retain the spree killer category. So I used to speak with Mark Safaric, a former FBI profiler, who was one of the organizers of the conference where this new development occurred. And we used to talk about it because he actually disagreed with the outcome of that symposium, and he writes all about that in the first chapter of this book. He agrees with me that spree killer does have some practical use for law enforcement. And then this case happened in 2018 of Dwight Layman Jones in Arizona. And Mark and I, and I'll tell you the details in a minute, but Mark and I at the same time, really on the very same day, thought, oh, there it is. There's the case that proves our point. And anyway, the case is that forensic psychiatrists had been killed in a parking lot, Stephen Pitt, in Arizona. And then the next day, 2 people were killed at law offices. And then another person was killed at the offices of a life coach. And it was very clear to people who knew Dwight Layman Jones that this is all related to him and a contentious divorce from his wife. And so they were able to, and also she got full custody of their son. So they were able to call law enforcement and say, we believe we know who is responsible for these 3 murders over a period of 3 days, and we know where he lives, and you should go, get him. And they did. He committed suicide at the scene. I'm really condensing the story for you, but he committed suicide. Sure. But essentially, because they were warned and alerted, and somebody was able to put together that this was an anger-targeted type of series of murders, they were able to stop him. And clearly he had more people on his list because he had put up a bunch of YouTube rants about all the people he held responsible for how his life had crashed and he'd lost custody of his son and whatnot. Clearly he was going to go after his ex-wife and her new husband, who happened to be the one who put this together because he was also her former bodyguard. And so that case, we both immediately, I wrote a blog saying, this is why the FBI is wrong. And Mark called me. And then all of a sudden we started looking around for more cases. We put together 25. And then we realized, no one's ever categorized spree killing the way they've done for mass murderers and serial killers, which are the other 2 aspects of the nomenclature of multicide. And so we started thinking, could we look at these cases and try to figure out categories? So we started really looking. I think we built up 100 cases and really started seeing that they are categorizable, and those that have practical value for law enforcement are in some specific categories. So we figured if we could form a sort of program where we could divide up those kinds of cases that would be useful to law enforcement away from those cases that aren't useful to them, such as murder in tight locations where they just can't get there in time. that we could actually do a training program for law enforcement, which is the last chapter of the book, showing when they understand the type of killing they have, as in the Dwight Layman Jones case, that they actually can mobilize quickly and perhaps save some lives and stop and identify the person quickly, as happened in that case and other cases. We also have a few more examples in the book as well where this happened. So it was very exciting for us. The book is essentially an argument to the FBI and law enforcement that spree killers is in fact a viable category with multiple subcategories, and that they can in fact prepare to respond to something like this if they understand the signals. So it was really, and we never expected it was going to go into a book, but by the time, we amassed all these, we started looking at other countries. We ended up with 43 countries, wow. 349 cases involving 419 killers.
Wow.
and 7 categories. And we ended up, having way more than we ever expected we were going to, but it's the largest database of anyone in the world of spree killers, and it's also the only one that is fully analyzed for all different kinds of data. So there's an entire chapter on informatics for spree killers that no one else has ever done. So I think we ended up, just because of this one case, we ended up having something that we think makes a real contribution to law enforcement. So that's a long answer to your question, but that's how it happened.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, Katherine. What about, is it exclusive? I mean, I know it's not exclusive, that's the wrong word, but much more prevalent in the United States with these spree killers. And why is that? What is it about us that makes us more prone to such things?
Well, we're a huge country. That's one thing. Also, I think it's always hard to make comparisons from one country to the next, in part because of the way cases get recorded, investigated. We even came up against some countries who just wouldn't release any information about a particular incident. So sometimes we had trouble getting that. And I think we didn't start out thinking we were going to do an international overviews. So we really concentrated on the cases that were readily available to us. So this is in no way is this book, despite being loaded with cases, in no way is this book exhaustive of all the cases in the world. Sure. But that being said, I would agree that these in part because they've been mixed with a lot of the what we would call mission-oriented mass and spree killings for terrorism purposes.
Right. Okay.
So that's in itself a whole different thing. But we have had a lot of the terroristic kinds of things, and also school violence, workplace violence. In part that has to do with media coverage, because
sure. Definitely.
You always get, no matter what happens in media, when they cover any incident, you'll always get people who become copycats or want to one-up that. If it's a big case like the Las Vegas shooting, they want to one-up the person. So anytime you have media coverage, you're always going to trigger other potential cases, and we have a number of those actually in the book where that has happened. So because we have such widespread media coverage and pretty free in terms of naming and giving out details in ways some other countries just don't have, we certainly have more, of these shootings. Plus, I'm going to say it, and I know everybody hates this, but we have much more readily available weapons for this.
Right. Sure.
Many, many, many of these people used guns, much more so. And that's not to say, spree killing can't be used. It can't have other things. We had machetes, we had knives, we had, even poisons. We have had any number of flamethrower in one case.
Oh yeah, explosives in Bath, Michigan too.
Yeah.
So we have a whole analysis of all the weapons used, but certainly guns comes up high list. Even in countries that don't have guns readily available, we did find some of these spree killers did manage to get them and use them.
Definitely interesting to hear what she's got to say.
She definitely has a lot of insight on it too.
Yeah,
So it's,
and that
like
book,
you said,
Chris,
great to talk to her.
sounds very meticulously drawn out. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I bet the book's amazing, but I feel like there's going to be a lot in there that I'm not going to
Soaring
comprehend.
over
dude.
our heads.
Yeah, like fucking like
Yeah,
what?
yeah. I mean, she's, like I said, a very accomplished writer and college professor, and she's got like 3-4 different degrees. Speaks different languages. She's amazing. Very interesting, though, Joey, to hear her talk about the differences between the spree killers and the mass murderers, and talking about, you know, how in our country it's more prevalent,
Right.
because of the, you know, the fact that we're a big country, number one, but also the readily accessible guns.
Yep.
Because they typically use guns as spree killers and mass murderers, just because you can kill a lot of people really fast with guns, right?
If you got a spot to study for this subject, you know, like Katherine Ramsland needs, I mean, the United States, unfortunately, is one of the best spots you can look at.
Yeah.
And for Chris, you know, I'm considering maybe a new job. I'm going to rewrite some of Katherine Ramsland's books and Katherine Ramsland for Dummies, so we can read that shit.
Catherine Ramsland for
nice.
dummies.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
I thought it was pretty sweet the way that they came with the book, though. It wasn't even supposed to be the book.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
started talking about something, putting some stuff together, and came together with all this information.
Is that how the podcast started?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, all came together with all this information to fucking, and they're like, well, now we got to do a book about it.
Yeah.
Fucking, so yeah, it's great shit.
Yeah, and having that FBI profiler with her made it even cooler.
Definitely.
Now, one thing I learned about spree killers is that they do sometimes stop, you know, to eat, sleep. So it's not like they just keep going.
Right.
And so they could, like, literally just go to sleep. When we talked about Rifkin, he wasn't a spree killer, but how he was able to kill that prostitute, then just go sleep
Yeah.
like a normal
Whatever,
night and get
you know,
up and then get
take
rid of the
care
body.
Like, oh, whatever.
Same with John List, you know. I mean, so it is weird how these guys can just go sleep somewhere. You think the normal person would be like, fuck going to sleep. I just fucking killed somebody.
Yeah,
Holy
like,
shit.
Shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
I mean, you got fucking Starkweather and Fugate.
Right.
When they were on there, I
Yeah.
mean, they were sleeping, doing what they could to live for those days. You know?
They were. But that killing is sometimes secondary to other crimes they're committing. So they're, you know, robbing.
Right.
You know, sometimes they're escaped inmates. So, you know, they're desperate, obviously, got no money, you know, nothing. So they're just stealing to survive and
As like Texas
doing
7.
whatever. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And they go on a crime spree and don't mind killing, you know, innocent people along the way, especially if they're cops,
Yeah,
man. That's like even a
That's the word.
bigger target.
Got to get rid of him because he's going to catch me and I'll be done. Fuck
Right. Now, when it comes to killers like the DC snipers, they're more like serial killers with those cooling off periods where they commit multiple murders in a short period of time. In cycles. Some of them swear they're not going to kill again when they're cooling off,
But they do.
but a lot of them go back to it. It's like they can't stop, and then they go into that berserker mode where they start killing faster and faster until they're eventually caught or killed. And it's crazy to think of somebody just completely fucking snapping like that. And Chris, an example of that would be Charles Whitman. I mean, if there
Right.
ever was a classic case of this, 1966. You know, we talked with Dr. Ramsland about him too. I mean, that's a good case to go into, man.
Yeah, I mean, the fact they killed his mom and his wife first, dude.
Right.
Then just like, and everything he put, as prepared as he
my
got to
God.
do what he did in that tower.
Yeah.
He was like prepared to the max, knew what he
Right.
was planning on doing,
Yeah.
and carried it out to the fullest extent that he could.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing an entire episode on Whitman. But Whitman is a very interesting case, Joey. I know you're very interested in him as well. But like Chris was saying, he had weapons all spread out on
Right.
that
Yeah.
tower
All
in
over the place.
1966,
They thought it was
Austin,
multiple
Texas.
people.
Yeah, they thought there were multiple shooters up
Right.
there because he was behind those parapet walls, and he was able to shoot and be covered, and he had all these different weapons. I mean, they didn't know what the fuck was going
No,
on.
and that's not something that was fucking commonplace by that
Definitely
point
not in
anyway.
66.
No,
dude.
not in 1966, and you know, Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
University of Texas. Really a good case. If you're interested, check out Charles Whitman. But we are going to do a whole podcast feature on him. But what was it about Whitman, Joey, that you felt that kind of fascinates you with him?
I mean, yeah, we've talked about Whitman before. Obviously, why we were talking about doing an episode on him.
Right.
But the thing with Whitman, I think with me, kind of like Chris was saying, is how prepared he was for everything. And
right.
I think it. I mean, I don't know, because you never really saw like interviews, nothing like that, so you don't really see too much of an insight into the man's mind,
right?
Which maybe like growing up was part of the intrigue, because man, he just seemed like somebody who was so fucking dead set on what he was doing, matter of fact about everything.
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't an out there dude to me.
No,
he wasn't what you would have thought. Crazy motherfucker.
Right.
This motherfucker, he seemed very adamant about what he was doing,
and he was so adamant about the fact that he thought something was wrong with his brain, and he was right.
It definitely turned out it was.
That's to me one of the most interesting things. So I'm really looking forward to doing our episode on Charles Whitman.
And I know Whitman was in Texas, but also 1966, same year in Chicago, was Richard Speck.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
What the heck, Richard Speck?
What the heck, Richard Speck?
So, Whitman kills his mom at her house, his wife at his house, and then goes to the tower. So the great example of a spree killer with the multiple locations, short span of time. Now, another classic spree killer would be Charles Starkweather. We've been talking about him off and on. And you mentioned, Chris, his accomplice, Karen Fugate. Their story was what inspired that movie, Natural Born Killers. And we're going to be doing an episode on Starkweather because he's another interesting one. And we talked about him with Dr. Ramsland and the whole Karen Fugate. Was she... an accomplice, or was she a victim? Did she really
want to be part of it?
Yeah.
And did she really want him to kill? Yeah.
Yeah, and she definitely plays that up. She got a much lighter sentence. Of course, he was sentenced to death, and then she winds up getting pardoned years later. Yeah, and she's out. Yeah, she's still alive. Right now, So
should I be a dick and tell you that you keep saying Karen? It's Carol Fugate.
It's Carol. Yeah, it is Carol. You're right. You're right.
Carol.
Usually I hear it after we do it, and then I listen back and I'm like, or me or something, like, oh, I fucked that up.
Yeah,
so this time I'm like, should I correct you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Carol. Yes, Carol Fugate. You're correct. Thank you.
Which, of course, like you said, be doing episode with them.
Yeah, we're going to do one on those two because it's a good case. And it's about a 14-minute long clip here with Dr. Ramsland again talking about some of that stuff. So check it out.
That's interesting. Did you, I saw you did a documentary about Charles Whitman. What is it about his case that makes him stand out from other cases?
Well, Whitman, I mean, most people think of him as a mass murderer, and sometimes they call him, because it was 1966, right. They call him sort of the first one in a wave of others, but he wasn't really. It was Howard Unruh, the first modern mass murderer. But Whitman, we put him in the category of mixed type. He is in fact a spree turned mass killer because he killed in 3 locations. He first murdered his mother and then his wife the night before. He took all his munitions and supplies and whatnot up to the tower at the University of Texas at Austin to start picking off people below. So we tend to think of him as a mass murderer, but as we looked at the case, Mark and I both realized we did need a mixed category, because we do have we have spree killers become serial killers. We have serial killers and mass murderers become spree killers. So we definitely had some of these cases that were crossovers, and he's one of them. But he's interesting to me, I guess, in psychology because the suicide note that he wrote, he also had signaled he was going to do this. He had talked it over with a campus psychologist and said that he was having these dreams and fantasies about shooting people from the tower. And those were the days before there was any kind of duty to warn laws, so that person didn't do anything with the information. He just thought the guy was venting.
Right,
but he wasn't.
Just thought he was talking and not going to actually do it.
Right. And you know what? that's the fact. Most people do exactly that. I mean, I've been a counselor. I don't like being a counselor, but I have been, and certainly venting goes on all the time. And so it's difficult at times to know when you should do something, but that as a result of some of these earlier cases, we now have a lot more safeguards in place for mental health experts to consult with one another, to look at guidelines. We do have laws now for duty to warn or duty to protect, depending on what state you're in. But so with him, though, he wrote a suicide note that indicated he thought there was something wrong with his brain, and indeed there was a tumor near the emotional center of the limbic system. And, you know, there'll be people, and I've heard criminologists say, well, that didn't cause him to do this. No, it did not cause him to do this. But there's little doubt that it was influential. And we can't dismiss that because he had this headaches and this free-floating sense that something was wrong, and he was irritable, and things just weren't going well. He was trained in the military, and had an abusive father. So there are a lot of factors that go into what ultimately a person ends up doing. And you can't discount that was one of those factors. Can't say that a brain tumor caused him to do it at all. But you can certainly say it did have some effect.
Right, you can't count it out for something.
You can't count it out, absolutely.
It's, I thought that documentary you were on that Chris referenced was really good. I'd not seen that before, but a lot of things I didn't know about Whitman, and that's why we've decided to do something on him here after the Spree Killer episode. Now we hear more about the active shooters now with the 24/7 news, but do you think they are more common, or is that only the perception just because we hear about things, and then, of course, social media as well, people have news instantly, but do you think they're more common now, or is it just coincidental?
No, they're certainly more common, in part because I remember I was teaching this in a class once, and I think it was right after 2008 when, the economy tanked and everybody, and all this stuff was happening. And I said, watch, there are going to be more of these, because what happens, I think, this is my theory, is that certain mentally unstable people tend to absorb collective social tension, and then they act out, and they often will act out depending on what they've seen in different media things, whether they're watching, true crime documentaries, or they're watching the news, or they're, reading books like mine, who knows. Right. But they see a way to act out and perhaps relieve the tension and maybe get some fame. Sometimes that's what is part of what can drive some of them. But they act out. And I think when you have one that's successful, that seems to have gotten a lot of attention, you'll get others in kind of a chain reaction to that. Right. Certainly with the school shootings, absolutely. Some of these are simply, they were inspired by someone else. And in fact, some of them have even said so. Sure. I can do better than him. I want to do it like that. And they romanticize it. That's sort of the kids' version of it. But if there are agendas, a mission, we have an entire category of these spree killers that we call mission-oriented. Some of them are mentally ill. Some of them have terrorist agendas. Some of them are just hate-filled people who want to lash out, And I think the New Zealand incident, I can't remember the guy's name, but when he went to Christ Church and he wanted to go into the temples and wipe out these people. And that's another good example, because he stupidly put this video up.
That's not very smart.
If you have police officers who know what they're doing and figure out the mission mindset, they can immediately figure out where might this person go next. And so, his downfall, he wanted to make a big splash, but his downfall was stupidly putting it on a video and basically saying, this is what I'm doing, come and get me. Yeah. So that's another good example of what we're trying to say, is that these spree killers, law enforcement can get ready for them. And when they have either an anger targeted type of killer that is like Dwight Lyman Jones, who had clear targets and a list of people he was angry at. Or you have these mission mindsets. It's easier to figure out to anticipate where they're going and what they might do next. So that too is a good case.
That's very interesting. Is it common for spree killers to commit suicide after they commit their crimes, or even suicide by cop or something like that? Is it?
Yeah. Yes. And we ran a whole study because I'm a suicidologist, so I'm always interested in the suicide angle of things. So we did part of our analytics was on the whole suicide question, in part because, in my opinion, of the three categories, you have mass murderers who kill 4 or more people in basically a single incident, or closely related locations. A spree killer who strings it out a little more in terms of geography or time, or both, and serial killers who are basically motivated in a very different way than either of those two. So I kind of see spree killers as being mass murderers strung out, right, across time, place. And in that case, most mass murders either are suicidal or do commit suicide either at the scene or later in their cells, or after they get convicted or something like that. They do tend to have suicidal intentions because everybody knows who they are. There's no hiding it. They're basically trapped. We do have some who turn themselves in, but often they will commit suicide or hope they'll get killed by police. So spree killers would have a lot of that same mentality. And that's certainly what we saw. We saw a lot of suicides, not as many, I think, as we expected to see. But certainly we also saw them getting into scraps at the end of their sprees. Like Dwight Lyman Jones is a good example, where when the police cornered him, initially he was going to shoot it out, but then he killed himself. And we've had a few more like that who waited until they were cornered and then, either shot themselves or put themselves in a situation where the police would shoot them.
Interesting. What is it about killers like Charles Starkweather that become romanticized with movies like Natural Born Killers? Do you think it was the fact that he had Carol Ann with him, the female accomplice? It kind of makes it like a very romanticized, albeit gory and gruesome, but somewhat romanticized. Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde.
Well, I mean, it was kind of romantic for Starkweather himself.
Sure.
He's the prototypical spree killer. Like, when you think of spree killer, it used to be that's the guy you'd think of.
Right.
And in many ways, he saw himself as her, deliverer. He went and killed her family. They played house together for a week. He had the first murder he committed even before his spree. Was so that makes him a sort of a serial killer turned spree killer.
Right. So
the murder he committed was so he could buy her presents because he robbed a gas station and killed the gas station attendant.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, his whole thing had romantic overtones because even as they were killing people across the way, and I have a personal thing with this because my college mentor's brother was Robert Jensen, who was the kid who picked him up hitchhiking and ended up with his girlfriend shot and dumped into a storm cellar.
Oh,
so that's something I've always had this, ever since college.
Interesting.
I've been aware. And then my mentor committed suicide.
Oh, my gosh.
So Starkweather had reverberations throughout that family, and several members of that family committed suicide, the Jensen family. And the Robert Jensen case was the one that they tried Starkweather on, so it was pretty horrifying for all involved. But still, in his mind, it was kind of a suicidal run. If he didn't make it, okay. But if he did, they were going to go find a place, isolated where they could be together forever. And she was, the one who was with him on this. And frankly, I honestly think that her whole defense, I know she's still alive and I should probably not say this, but she had ways to get away from him. There was an entire week there.
Definitely.
There were times when he was asleep. There was time for her to have done something. And when she spoke about her involvement later, you could tell she was sophisticated enough to know what she was doing and then to turn on him. So she easily could have turned on him before. She wasn't in terror of her life. And he even suggested she might have been involved in the Jensen murder with his sister, his fiance,
Right.
Carol. So, maybe, she certainly disavows that to this day. I personally am skeptical of some of the claims she's made since then, because I think when you really look at that whole spree, I think she was altogether, let's kill people together, like you see with Natural Born Killers or some of these other shows that are supposedly based on them. I don't think at all she wanted him to kill her family, and I don't think she was very enthused about other people he killed. But nevertheless, I think she went along with him. Who knows? Maybe she just thought she had nothing left.
That was
so
her
why
life
not?
now, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. But in a way, the reason I think it gets romanticized is because it for him, it was romantic. He was her protector. He was going to make a life for them together by killing these people and stealing from them and finding a way to get where they could be, where nobody would find them. That was kind of an absurd notion, but he wasn't a very bright guy.
Right.
Now, I thought that was really interesting there in that clip, how Dr. Ramsland talks about her roommate / mentor in college was the sister of one of the Starkweather victims, which is crazy.
Right, yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
She winds up committing suicide, which is awful, but very, very compelling stuff. She's just such an interesting speaker, and I hope you guys like those clips we played. The 666 Club members, like I said, can hear the entire 48-minute interview with her. We'll talk about that later, but just wanted to mention it because that's a way we're going to start doing these interviews is we're going to play clips from them, but the entire interviews will then be Patreon only, so they'll be able to hear the whole thing. So now, Joey, I agree with Dr. Ramsland that Carol Fugate was an active part in the murders and got off pretty easy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that was the case. I don't know, because obviously we weren't there.
Of course.
So you don't know what kind of control he might have had, but at the same time, with the actions that progressed in the days that they took off, it seems like she was more of an active participant. Right. It's kind of like an earlier version of how I kind of feel Karl Homolka was a bigger part of those killings.
Oh, without a doubt. Without it, that's a great example of that as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna refer to her interview, the segment that you guys were playing, and she was talking about the mission-oriented killers.
Yeah,
and a lot of them, suicide's the end game for them.
Right.
Usually not by their own hands. And just like I said, I was going to bring up a few that weren't necessarily spree killers, but I thought would fit the mold. And two that kind of reminded me of her interview where she was talking about those were Francisco Gonzalez and David Burke, which both of them hijacked planes.
Okay.
And Francisco Gonzalez, May 7th, 1964, the plane went down in Danville, California, 43 killed. David Burke, December 7th, 87, in San Luis Obispo, California, 42 killed, including themselves. And both of them, hijacked the plane, killed the pilot and the co-pilot, shoot themselves, and then the
plane's just out there flying.
But that was like
up.
when she talked about mission-oriented, I was like, man, that's a fucking mission.
That's
right
a mission.
there.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah, and you get a lot of them like the fanatics, the religious fanatics, or like what was his name, Callinger. These crazy notions. He was certainly a serial killer, wouldn't be really a spree killer, but these people that are mission oriented, like Ridgway, felt like he was doing a service by eradicating these prostitutes. So really fucked up.
With Callinger, like you said, I mean, that's that blur because you can almost put him in the other categories.
You almost could.
I feel that way with
it wasn't that long of a period of time.
No, it wasn't at all.
And Berkowitz, I kind of feel the same way because he was like, shooting them. He was kind of like spree shooting, but with a cooling off period, like a serial killer.
I
So
know.
it was weird.
It blurs the line. It really does. Now, there are so many spree killers, it's really hard to narrow them down. And one of the ones I recently saw a listener posted on Facebook about it. I don't have the name of the listener handy, but thanks for that suggestion, the person that did that. The LAPD cop, Chris Dorner, that would possibly be one we could do an entire feature on.
Definitely.
He committed a series of shootings from February 3rd to February 12th in 2013. His victims were police officers as well as civilians. He killed 5, injured 6 others. He claimed that he did this manifesto and declared war on the LAPD for firing him
because he was calling them out on their bullshit, using excessive force, and they were calling him a liar.
Yeah,
and he got pissed off about it. Didn't feel like he deserved to get the treatment he was getting. Much.
I mean, and what's going on today? That's a very interesting situation because we're talking 7 years ago, and we all know that the police have been accused of that for a long time. So it's very unfortunate that this happens at all. But of course, the media jumps on it, especially when they can sensationalize it. And we're just going to kind of leave that there because we really don't want to get into that.
Right.
But Dorner died in a shootout with the police in
the mountains, man.
Yeah, in a cabin in the San Bernardino Mountains. So pretty crazy. Now, Chris, you brought up an interesting one.
Yeah,
who was that? Mark Barton?
Yeah, he kind of snapped at work, and that's another thing that, like we talked about earlier.
Some of them have in common.
Yeah, some of them have in common.
Going
like
postal
basically
type of
going
thing.
postal type of shit, which, like, I can't remember his name, but the first person that went postal, like straight up went at the post office.
Right.
It's Barton just like lost a shit ton of money at work because he was a fucking day trader.
Yeah.
And he was in debt, like owed money to his company and shit, and fucking just lost his shit pretty much.
Yeah, it was 1999 I saw that happened.
He killed his fucking family. And then,
dude, and how he killed his family is fucking brutal.
So
Hit the
fucking
hammer,
bad.
man.
Yeah. Terrible.
Wow.
And then he left like notes on each of their bodies and shit, basically like a prayer or some shit.
Yeah, there was very religious oriented, kind of going into that mission type of thing. He killed 12 plus himself, used a hammer. For his wife and kids, got the hammer, but then he busted out the guns.
Yeah. And he went to 2 different ex-job sites. I can't remember the names of the companies.
Yeah, they were side by side.
And had the whole fucking 911 shit fucked up in the head because they thought they got the one 911 call, so they send cops out there, and then they get one from the other one. Like, oh, the police are already there, and they're like, no, they're not. So,
wow.
So yeah, like the 911 dispatchers were confused because it was the same thing going on in 2 different places.
Oh my god! I read something where he was like kind of hanging out with his coworkers and then just took the gun out and just started shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fucked.
He just talked to him. He's like, called the one dude, like pretty much just, hey, come here, check this out real quick. And just started blasting off.
That's
man.
fucked up, man. And in the notes, like you mentioned, they talked about Jehovah and got all into this religious stuff. And he went to shoot the coworkers. It was just crazy shit. And I think, did he get killed in that?
He killed himself.
Oh, he killed himself. That's right.
He had a 9mm and a 45, I think. He put one gun to each temple. Only one gun went off, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, he put each gun to each temple.
Oh, man. God damn, that's fucking crazy shit.
I would have put them both on my dick.
Bow, bitch.
One up your butt. Now, if you look at, I'm not going to pronounce this probably correct. Sung Wee Cho. The Virginia Tech shooter from 2007. He's listed in Wikipedia as a mass murderer. His 32 murders were spread out across campus in various buildings.
And that's the blurred line right there.
So that's what I don't know.
Different areas.
Yeah, I mean, because on ISU campus, all those buildings have addresses. They're separate buildings,
and they're on they're
different streets,
far away from each other too.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is going to be a huge fucking campus. Yeah. So I could see where you could call him a spree killer. I could see where mass murderer would fit.
Right.
It's confusing. I didn't think to ask Dr. Ramsland about that. So depending on how you look at it, but most school shootings would probably be considered mass murders, don't you guys think?
Well,
Unless
a
they actually
normal-
killed somebody and then went
to
did
the
it,
school. Yeah,
you know. Now, I don't know, Joey, what you think about it. Can you think of any school shooters that would be considered a spree killer?
I think I'm in the same kind of deal with you, where I think almost specifically they're going to be considered mass murderers.
Right.
One that I think of, though, because it was kind of happened in 2008 up at Northern Illinois University, Stephen Kazmierzak, he opened fire with a shotgun, 3 pistols in a crowd of students on campus, and he killed 5 and injured 17 before he killed himself.
Okay.
So another kind of like Virginia Tech, just
sure.
not that excessive.
not that big of a body count.
But
yeah.
still, that's fucking
Oh,
scary
sure.
as
It
shit.
is
And
scary.
I had been living up there, not then. I had
Right.
moved by then, but all my friends from DeKalb.
We're still over
Yeah,
there.
like
yeah.
Gonzo, like he fucking was going to school there. It was like,
Wow.
that's fucking scary.
It is fucking scary.
And then another thing, like you're talking about, how it kind of blurs the line, but it's so much more worth mentioning because it's on a campus and it's in different areas,
Right.
Columbine's kind of like that too.
Yeah.
They had multiple areas. But another thing that I was thinking of that kind of goes along that way is in 2009, Fort Hood.
Yeah, I
Fucking
remember
Major,
Fort Hood.
what was his name? Nadal Hassan.
Yeah.
He fucking went crazy, killed 13 people, injured 30 more.
Right.
And that's kind of the same way because it happens on active base.
Yeah, but
in
it was at
different areas.
one. I was at Fort Hood, but I wasn't there at the time.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly where that was, but it was like some sort of, they were getting ready to be deployed.
Right.
So they were at some sort of processing center. So they were at one location on the
Okay,
base,
yeah.
but
Were they?
Fort Hood is like the size of Bloomington.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Right.
fucking huge.
Yeah.
There's like 40,000 people that live there. So it's a
Damn.
very large, and the
its own
ranges and
town.
stuff, it's a huge fucking, it is.
It's its own
It's a
town, yeah.
city, for sure. So under normal circumstances, like a Virginia Tech, I would agree, was
Yeah.
moving around, but I'm
That
pretty
one, he
sure
was pretty
everything happened
stationary.
at that processing center.
I thought that was because I knew you had been at Fort Hood.
Oh,
too, so
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
And like we said, I think we're going to kind of go back and forth with some of these mass murderers
Right.
just because they do blur that line.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we heard Katherine mention in that clip was about the flamethrower, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, when
So
she
I,
mentioned it, I was like,
I
what
Googled
the
spree
shit, man?
killer with the flamethrower, and I found this gem. I was like, wow, she wasn't bullshitting. In
Not at all, man.
1964 in Cologne, West Germany, remember those of you that are
Before-
young,
Right.
there was East and West Germany. East was the communist side, West was the free side. They combined them to one Germany years later, but in 1964 they were separate. Walter Seifert went on a rampage at an elementary school with a homemade flamethrower, some DIY shit, Joey,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a spear, and killed 8 kids and 2 teachers
Right.
and wounded 22 others. I mean, Chris, what the
Bro.
fuck, dude?
Like, first of all,
Wow.
props on making a homemade flamethrower.
That's what I'm
gonna go
saying.
with that.
Is there a YouTube video? on how to
There's
do
got to
that?
be a tutorial somewhere.
Anarchist cookbook.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking. But then why are you going to want to go to the goddamn elementary school? What them kids do to you unless you got fired from the school?
Right.
But yeah,
That's
that'd be.
still shitty.
Could you imagine fucking this dude just
No,
walking up, fucking throwing
flamethrower,
fucking
little kids.
Yeah, that'd
That's
be
fucked
fucked,
up.
man.
Spearing
and a
them?
spear.
Yeah.
Like I picture like that movie 300 or whatever.
Yeah. Oh,
Fucking, fucking an old gladiator, old Roman spear or some
Right.
shit like that with a flamethrower. Like
What was that? What was that one case? Wasn't it here in Illinois with the guy that made the bomb and went to the school? And
No, that was in Bath, Michigan.
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's the one we talked with Harold Schechter about.
Yeah.
Right.
He's got that book coming up about that. So, Joey, it makes sense that most of them use guns,
Yeah.
but this one is kind of interesting with the flamethrower
Right,
and the
right.
spear. That's for sure.
I mean, you fucking torch the whole fucking building, kill everybody if you needed to with that shit.
Now, I think spree killers is an interesting topic, and looking at them, compared to mass murders or serial killers is very interesting. And I mentioned again that Dr. Vronsky book, just really awesome, and also Dr. Ramsland's book. So, did you guys have anything you wanted to add? I know Joey had a list of some. Did you already touch on those?
I've touched on almost everything. I had 2 more actual spree killers that I did want to bring up.
Sure.
to be honest, both of them, like we said, be good episodes. And
Oh,
as
sure.
Murder Metal Mayhem goes on,
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, one that I wanted to bring up, and that's because this one's so recent, was April 18th and 19th of 2020. Gabriel Wortman up in Canada had the largest killing of any Canadian crime. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He killed 22, and it lasted 13 and a half hours.
Oh, wow.
And he had dressed up as a Canadian Mountie. And
wow.
How do I
Yeah.
not remember
that.
hearing about this?
Well, because this has also been during all this COVID,
All the COVID shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, this was at the beginning of that, like I said, in April. And
Right.
No, he snapped out, and that was... There's always been, a little bit of a jibber-jabber back and forth with U.S. and Canada, how Canada is so much safer and all this and that.
Right.
So once this happened, that was like a fucking very big awakening to them because this guy had all these fucking guns.
Oh, yeah.
Shit, this fucking happened. Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that one was a good one to bring up because it was so recent and Canada's worse. But another one that I really want to bring up, and this is probably my most fascinating case as far as spree killing goes, was the Port Arthur massacre that happened in Tasmania, Australia.
Yeah. What was that?
Martin Bryant on April
Bryant,
28th and 29th in 1996. He killed 35 and wounded 23.
Yeah, I
and
remember
he went
hearing
to
about that.
multiple places.
Right.
And he lured cops in to kill them.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't that old either.
No, and his whole story is so fucking... That story is so intense that's one I would definitely like to do.
Yeah, I've been
I know
wanting
my
to do
buddy,
one anyway.
my buddy
Okay.
Rick Ring listens to this podcast.
Yeah,
And
fuck yeah,
he's
Rick.
from Tasmania. He was definitely alive during that time.
Oh,
living
wow.
there.
We'd have to get him on.
Right,
man.
and I think that would be interesting to see
Yeah.
if we could do that.
That'd be awesome, dude. That would be really awesome. Now, the research that I did for this episode was done with a few different YouTube documentaries, plus our conversation with Dr. Ramsland. Definitely go check her out on Amazon. You could pick up her books that way. And as she mentioned, she's on Facebook.
That's pretty much her main social media.
Yeah,
is
she's
Facebook,
on there
so.
all the time. Big thanks to her for doing that interview with us. I also mentioned that amazing book by Dr. Peter Vronsky, Serial Killers, The Method and Madness of Monsters. That needs to be on your bookshelf if you're into true crime, seriously. What about you guys? Anything you guys read or watched?
I mean, nothing like
Specific?
specific documentaries on individual spree killers.
Yeah,
And,
I watched some Whitman stuff.
yeah,
That's where I
well-
saw
Right.
Dr. Ramsland on that one. I was
Yeah.
like, we've got to do this interview with her because she was on that one. So
It's like a lot of the spree killer documentaries you find, they cover the bases on the same kind of ones. Though.
Right.
You see Whitman, you see Muhammad,
yeah, and that's why I thought it was cool. We did some of the more
Yeah,
obscure
for sure.
ones. I think
Definitely,
we always
yeah.
like to do those. So very, very cool. All right, well, next time we're going to be doing a very disturbing case from 1963 to 1965 in the UK. The Moors murders is definitely one of those that you may not be familiar with. Ian Brady, who is fascinating, and Mira Hindley, who's also fascinating, killed at least 5 children. And their story is a crazy one. The way they hid the bodies,
Yeah,
and he went to his grave not giving up where
A
the last
goddamn
one
thing, yeah.
was.
taking the pictures to fucking mark the
Yeah, and he writes this fucking book while he's in prison called The Gates of Janus. Now, I ordered this thing not once, but twice, and it never showed up. I got reimbursed both times.
But you still
so
haven't-
there's
but you never
no,
received the
there's
book,
like
huh?
somebody telling me I shouldn't read this book,
Right, I guess.
because he writes about serial killers, and the book on the cover says written by a serial killer. So the publisher's obviously playing on that.
Right.
But he writes this book with his insight on Bundy, Gacy. I mean, that would be fascinating to read what a serial killer would say
thoughts
about
all
other
around,
serial
yeah.
killers. Very intelligent guy, apparently. He's passed now, but a very, very fascinating read, I'm sure. So that's going to be a good one next week. You don't want to miss it.
Nah.
The couple killers, too. It gets kind of
Yeah.
crazy. So we got that great metal motherfucker coming up. He's ready to throw the fuck down. So, Joey, what's going to happen now, buddy?
Let's get our metal on!
Known the world over as the master of metal, the crusher of posers, and Murder Metal Mayhem's knower of all things metal, hailing from Wild Van Street in Danbury, Connecticut,
Standing at 6 feet of brutal, punishing madness, weighing in at 220 pounds of poser pulverization, the one, the only, toughest bastard on the planet, Chris C.K. Kovacs! All right, we got the great metal motherfucker on here with us here. What's up, CK?
What's up, gentlemen?
Fucking throwing down, talking about some spree killers.
Man, let's just travel all over for a little bit, like,
right?
and just murder anybody.
That's right. Got Joey Goremonger in here hanging out with us again.
I used to put like 4 doses per spree and kill motherfuckers that way.
Yeah.
I used to love that candy.
Yeah. So good.
Sprees.
So, CK, we were talking in the intro that you've been just throwing the fuck down with some old school bands, and here's another one you got coming up tonight. We're kind of pumped to hear about it. So, what is the metal feature for tonight, dude?
The metal feature for tonight is the Australian band Midnight Oil from the 80s.
Midnight Oil.
Yeah.
That ball guy kind of looking, rocking my look. You know?
No, just joking, of course. Sacred Reich of Phoenix, Arizona.
Fuck yeah, fucking
Hell
Sacred
yeah,
Reich,
dude.
man.
Oh, awesome stuff.
Another band that finally came out with a new album. I think it was like 27 years after the last one. So,
Right?
you know,
A little bit of a break, a little hiatus.
yeah.
It's that cool down period.
They've been together since 2006. But originally they formed in '85, and they got a big push. I remember the reason why I heard of them was Flotsam and Jetsam always pushed them because they're from the same area.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where they're from, so that makes sense.
It was kind of like a junior band of Flotsam and Jetsam because
Right.
they always pushed. I remember Jason Newsted pushing them. And to tell you the truth, I mean, they formed in '85, and the first album, Ignorance, came out in '87. When that first album came out, I wasn't too impressed with it.
Really?
Yeah.
When I first got it, it just, to me, sounded almost like generic thrash.
Yeah.
And
I
it was
still
one-
think it does.
Right, yeah. I see what you're talking about with them, but they're still fucking badass, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it took me like a couple months to get into it, and I finally did get into it. But that album got a lot of coverage as far as magazines and on MTV. I think it was on the Headbangers Ball. You saw them a lot. The bigger thing that came up was when they put out the Surf Nicaragua.
That fucking
Right.
Jesus Christ, I
EP.
love that shit.
That's killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing, man.
That thing was like all over the place, and they did a fucking awesome version of War Pigs
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
by Sabbath. And that was the album that really gave them more or less put him on. Well, it wasn't an album; it was a 4-song EP or 6-song EP that really put him on the map. But when they came out with The American Way, that did it for me. That album was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, agreed.
That was pretty much for 1990. That was the thrash album for me for that year. I don't know why it took him 3 years to come out with a follow-up to Ignorance. I know this is the last album with the original band members, or at least with the original band together. I know the first 2 albums was Phil Ryan, Wiley Arnett, Jason Rainey, and the drummer was Greg Hall. I know after The American Way, Greg Hall left the band. Musical differences, as always. And they eventually signed to a major label, and I think they signed to Hollywood Records, which I forget who they were subsidiary of. I know Universal was a distributor, but they were a major. Oh, it was actually a Disney. Disney owned it.
Okay.
And that album fucking killed. And considering it was in '93, so it was another 3 years between American Way and Independent. Independent was just another killer album. I mean,
Yeah, I was actually just jamming that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking so good, dude.
I mean, at the time, there wasn't really too much coming out as far as metal.
Right.
Obviously, you had the precursor to grunge coming. Hair metal was ruling the airwaves, or pretty much everything at that time.
Yeah.
And thrash and underground music was pushed to the side. But Sacred Reich came out with this album, Independent. I just remember putting it on and listening to it and being like, "Holy shit!"
Right.
This band is just getting better and better with each album. And it was another 3 years until the follow-up with that. And for some reason, after '93, I guess the album really didn't sell that well. But Hollywood Records dropped them. They went back to Metal Blade because you always go back to your home. And I guess so many bands have like left Metal Blade and gone back.
Right.
I can't even tell you how many bands have probably done that in the past.
Yeah.
And Metal Blade always brings them back. They, no issues.
No.
And that was Heel in '96. And at that time, metal was not even thrash was not even on the map at that point. And this album still kept up the thrash roots and was at that time one of my favorite albums of the year, I remember. And then after that, they just disappeared. They broke up. Nothing was said. They just went their own separate ways. And 2006, you heard that they were getting back together, doing festivals and stuff like that, doing some shows. Supposedly they've been back together since 2006, but with limited shows. Obviously, no album until last year when they put out Awakening, which is fucking
amazing.
An amazing album considering it's 27 years after Heel. And it was the original band. Greg Hall came back. It was Jason Rainey, Wiley Arnett, and Phil Rind. That was the original band. Unfortunately, Greg Hall had issues again. I don't know if it was personal issues with the guys or musical, whatever it was, and they brought back Dave McClain, who replaced Greg Hall previously in '91, I believe it was, from Machine Head, because Machine Head just at that time, actually everybody left Machine Head, and what's his face put a new Machine Head together, but Dave McClain left and went right back into Sacred Reich. Unfortunately, Jason Rainey, the original rhythm guitarist, he passed away last year. He had a massive heart attack, and I think he was only like 50, 51.
Wow.
So he passed away. And now they have a dude named Joey Radswell as the new rhythm guitarist. But Sacred Reich is still together now. Obviously, they're not touring because you can't tour right now.
Right. Well, maybe after all this crap goes away, it'd be nice to see them out on stage, man. That's cool.
That would be fucking sweet, man.
Or hopefully they're recording a new album like a lot of people are.
Yeah, there are
they
quite
got
a
nothing
few.
else to do. Might as well make some new music.
Might as well.
I mean, I know Ozzy's recording a follow-up to his last album already.
Yeah, there's quite a few bands recording right now. I mean, might as well make use of the time. Now, what's your lost classic this week, CK?
The band is Desperado, and the name of the album is Ace. Now, there's a little history with this album.
Okay.
And
Not familiar with this at all. So.
No,
me
no,
either.
you'll know the
idea.
band. You'll know the band members once I tell you. It was a super group.
Okay.
It was Dee Snider,
Nice.
Bernie Torme, and Clive Burr.
Nice. Wow.
Originally, this album was supposed to come out, I think, in like mid-90s, and it was supposed to be called Bloody But Unbowed.
Wow.
And for some reason, the record company who signed them shelved the album. The re-release, or what would be the actual first edition of the album come out, because I know the Bloody But Unbowed edition was bootlegged a lot. It was finally released under the title Ace in 2006.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say Clive Burr got ill there and it's gone now, so that that's cool that he did this. I didn't realize. I always loved his drumming in Iron Maiden before Nico.
But it's a hard album to find now, but it was just a good metal album in general, and not many people knew about it. A lot of people knew of Dee Snider's band Widowmaker, which was which was after Desperado, and actually on the first Widowmaker album, I think he redid 4 or 5 songs from the actual Desperado album.
Interesting. Okay.
But if you can, definitely check it out.
That's cool. That's cool. What have you guys been listening to, Joey? What about you here lately? Anything worth mentioning?
Yeah, I mean, I've been at home in the car. I've been listening to some David Allan Coe.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at home, I've been on kind of a little bit of a classic rock thing.
Okay.
And 2 albums that I've been listening to a lot lately. Jethro Tull Original Masters. I can never get enough of that my whole life.
Yeah.
And then Deep Purple, The Book of Taliesin, their second album.
Oh, why?
The original Deep Purple lineup.
Yep.
with Rod Evans and was it Rod Evans and something? His last name was Price or something.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. Whenever I was a young kid, though, that was the first Deep Purple I ever heard. Was that album?
Right.
My uncle had the record, and that became the album to me.
Right.
Just because
I love that era of the band.
Yeah, me too. It's a lot different, of course, than
it's not
the
even-
rock and
yeah.
Blackmore era, but
Yeah, it's not. It's not. You put on Machine Head, you put on that.
Right.
There's definitely
A difference.
A difference.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, CK? What have you been jamming here lately?
I've been listening to like some really diverse shit lately. Dark Angel,
Nice.
Megadeth,
Okay.
The Pretenders, their first 2 albums. And actually, the Beastie Boys, Ill Communication.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
I've been like all over the map lately. So
Okay. Well, that's good. Chris, what about you, bro?
Nothing different in particular. Like lately,
background music,
Background
kinda?
music for the most part at the moment. Nothing. Yeah. The other night though, Saturday night we were chilling out and shit, and we had a fucking fire going. I just had YouTube going, and YouTube just randomly played the whole live Faith No More. No, yeah, live Faith No More.
Download Festival.
Yeah, the Download Festival, and then right after
that's
that,
cool.
it played the live Primus that was so badass,
Oh,
like the
God.
whole show, and then but that shit was like so awesome
We left it
listening
on
to it,
autoplay for a while. It was actually decent.
and
I
it
was
kept
like,
playing
"Oh."
awesome shit for us.
That's really cool.
And then all of a sudden, something shitty came on. We're like, well, changing that. But yeah,
Yeah, we had a little bit of a drive this weekend to go see her mom and dad. It's a couple hours, so I listened to the Katherine Ramsland interview on the way there.
right to catch up on
to get
that.
brought up on getting ready to do this, and then we also listened. She likes classic rock, like 60s and 70s stuff, so some of it wasn't my thing, but some of it was cool.
Right.
Some Zeppelin, some things obviously
Right.
I know, and then some of the
Yeah, that's
60s stuff is not really my thing.
Right.
Don't like keyboards and it's just, I'm pretty much a metalhead, so the other stuff I can listen to in the background, it's fine, but if
Yeah.
it's like at a loud volume, I don't know how much
Right.
I would like it. So
yeah, that's what we listen to in the car when in Laura's car is that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind because I grew up on that.
Yeah,
shit.
and like I said, it's background while you're talking. It's fine. National metal news or any local stuff anybody wants to mention while we're talking metal?
I ain't got anything off the top right now.
No, we still have the show in Anarga
next
month.
Anarga, it's still
birthday.
going on. Yeah,
That's cool. What's the date on that one, Joey?
shit, I don't even remember offhand.
No,
Fuck.
I don't either.
That's cool, though. Anarga's not that far away. If you're here in central Illinois, you know probably where it is.
Yeah, it's
So you guys have done shows there before, so it's a
right.
good spot.
August 22nd.
August 22nd.
Which,
The
of
home
course,
plate.
is going to be Chalk, Blood Feud, Goremonger, Treachery Untold, Indulge Devour, and Interspecies Erotica. So all the local homies from here.
That's awesome. And we actually got an email from a guy from a band. I shared it with you, CK. I don't know if you've heard it yet.
Yeah, I started listening to it. It jams.
Yeah, it does. The band is called Divided by Design, and they sent us their album. I'll forward it to everybody. But they're really good. They're from the UK. They're very progressive from what I heard. I only heard about the first 2 minutes of the first song, and I was like, wow, this is pretty intense.
Instrumental progressive.
That's what I
Is it
thought. I didn't hear
instrumental?
any
Okay.
vocals.
Yeah.
So it's amazing,
That's cool,
though.
though.
They are fucking jamming the fuck out.
So it's like animals as leaders and shit.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so Divided by Design, plan on playing some of that in the next episode. So thanks, guys, for sending that
Yeah,
in.
definitely.
And then CK, if you dig
I'm
it.
I'm gonna do a review on it. I gotta
Awesome.
listen to it more. But
Yeah.
Yeah, send me that link. I want to check it
listened-
out.
I listened to a couple songs, and it's definitely right up my alley of what I like.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. So you'll get to do a review of it. We'll get to hear the review
Definitely.
here, and then we'll play some of it next episode. So check that out.
And I got to give a shout out to Stephanie.
Yeah.
One of our I got the
You
shirt
got
that she
it?
made for me.
Oh,
I got it today.
Wow.
Fucking A, man.
I'm going to be taking my wife's going to take a picture of me in it, and I'll post it online in the next day or two.
That's
Sweet,
cool,
sweet, dude.
man. That's very
So-
cool. That's
And
awesome.
again, I want to thank her for doing that for me.
Yeah.
That was awesome, and she did it. I guess because basically everything I've been through. So
Yeah.
it's cool that our audience actually
Gives a shit.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
a cool
yeah.
thing. And Stephanie and her sisters were up at Shakers this weekend. They took the Dahmer tour, and she had special shirts made of the event
Hell
with
yeah.
Murder Metal Mayhem and then Dahmer or Milwaukee 2020 or something, and then they had Dahmer face masks on. And
Yeah.
really cool stuff. So, yeah, Stephanie, shout out big time.
And speaking
Toledo,
of Shakers
Ohio.
and Dahmer,
Yes.
the 666 Club, if you join that,
Oh, dude.
what are you
what
going
a-
to get to hear?
You're going to get to hear the whole Dahmer episode, and with it, an interview with Bob
Bob
talking
Weiss.
about the Cannibal, Cream City Cannibal Dahmer tours there in Shakers. So that's awesome. And that'll be part of that episode. And we're also going to interview John Borowski. So you get to hear, that interview with him in there.
I
So
mean, that alone, that's worth the $3.
Right.
yeah,
Hearing
because you're
those
not
two?
going to get to hear it unless you're
Right.
part of that 666 club.
Not
So
at
$3
all.
a month, patreon.com/Murder Metal Mayhem will get you there. You'll get that special episode when we record it later this month. Currently, the 666 club members can hear that whole Katherine Ramsland interview, and they also get the episodes a day early, the notes from the show. At the first of the month, I'll send them a list of all the topics we're going to cover that month, and all sorts of VIP shit, the karaoke songs as soon as they're recorded, and stuff that you guys get when I get stuff done. So they're going to be, tied in that close with it. So it is a cool thing.
Be part of the show, pretty much.
That's right, very much so. And they'll get to help us out because laptops get the stuff spilled on them
Yep.
and have to be replaced. So
Yeah, that sucks.
So anyway, that's going to be really cool. So all right, guys. Well, I think we've done.
Did
Joey,
you
have anything you want to mention about your distro,
anything
brother?
got a fucking how to hit you up on Facebook, Goremonger page?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody needs some metal shit, hit me up. I will say, I fucking forgot about this until now, but because of the podcast, I did have somebody hit me up in a band and I need to talk to them a little more. But it's some ex-members of like Dead End and
Right.
Slaughter and like those bands from around here.
Yeah.
But they were talking to me about distroing one of their CDs and stuff. So
Very
that's
cool.
really cool that
Yeah.
the connection was made.
Fuck
through
yeah,
Murder
dude. That's
Metal
awesome, dude.
And that they contacted me. So.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
people could check you out on Facebook on Goremonger
Yeah,
and then
or
get your
FTA
distro.
Records. Either one.
Okay.
Hit me up. Yeah, you can get shit from me. Talk about music if you have questions or
Sure.
curious about trying distro stuff or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. And bands out there, I mean, just like those guys from that band we've been talking about sent in, their songs, get a hold of us. We'd love to check it out. If it's something we like, we'd love to play it and talk about it and tell people, to go check you out. So, just get off your lazy backside and get a fucking email sent in or
That's all it
Facebook.
takes.
And
Do
get
it right
done.
there on your backside. Just
That's
get
right.
on your phone.
Yeah, you could be pooping right now. That's fine. Whatever you're doing is fine.
Shit mail.
All right. Well, very good. CK, what the hell do we need to do right now, buddy?
We're going to get our mayhem on now.
Fuck yeah.
How are you surviving the pandemic? All cooped up with nowhere to go? Well, here at Dr. Geen Vagina Maintenance, we understand what sitting on the couch until your ass is numb, watching Netflix for 12 hours can do to your vagina. It turns into a nasty place, a crevice from hell. All that darkness and warmth is just a breeding ground for that nasty stuff that Mother told me about. That evil vagina devil that Mother warned me to stay far away from. We've got a nice solution for that, ladies. So try some of our special vagina virus butter for those times when that sweaty demon crotch is just smelling like low tide at the wharf. Ease our nostrils with that slather of your vagina butter and watch those nasty little vagina devils fly away.
What the fuck?
You do that so smooth, though, Cash.
Oh,
So
my
smooth.
God. Oh, wow. I think I missed my calling as a comedy writer and Joey as a voiceover
Oh, my
artist.
God, dude. So fucking
Good stuff.
smooth,
And
bro.
we're one hell of a combination
Right.
on those. That's some good shit. So we got the Dr. Geen vagina maintenance commercial. And before that, though, some fucking Sacred Reich, The American Way, Killer, classic fucking old school metal, man. You got to love it.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir.
it was good to talk to you, CK, about them, and always good to have you on here with us talking about some mayhem. You and Joey still on board with us, so you guys doing okay?
Oh, yeah. Fuck
I'm
yeah.
good.
CK doing good?
I'm
Wild Man Street sounded kind of quiet tonight.
Right.
So
good. It's quiet. It's quiet tonight.
I haven't heard
volleyball?
any sirens or anything. No
No,
volleyball.
I don't even know if they live there anymore.
Oh, wow.
You fucking scared him
Pandemic sent
away.
their ass back to Ecuador.
I
man.
don't know if because it's the pandemic or
Yeah.
they just moved.
Interesting.
Huh.
Well, does anybody have any mayhem stories they want to tell tonight?
Man, I got a little one. Should I leak it?
Get it on, dude.
Man, y'all know Chris's brother, Michael.
Right.
Like, the listeners, like,
Yeah.
know a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit. The people
He'd
that
be
we know
around.
definitely know.
Yeah.
They'd be around.
So this is really quick, but it's really funny because anybody that knows the Shawbacks know they get drunk. Like Shawback drunk's a real thing.
Right.
So this has been no exception for many years. So whenever Disturbed's first album came out, because they were pretty big from around here, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I originally found their tape in the parking lot, the Dairy Queen, when I worked here in Bloomington. Like, that's for real. I found, like, a cassette single of, like, Down with Sickness, something else.
Right.
And, I mean, if I had that now, it's probably worth fucking money. But,
Probably.
I probably fucking used it
Probably.
to prop up my table leg or something.
Right.
But anyway, so when their first album came out, Michael didn't have a car back then, and I had a car, and they were playing touring for their first album.
Right.
And I was going to get tickets for him, and then he didn't come through because he ended up getting so drunk they didn't show up to my house. So he comes over and he's like, "Man, did you get the tickets? Did you get the tickets?" And when I told him that I couldn't get them because I didn't have the money, I didn't have money like that back then.
Right.
Dude, he was so he was Wayne. That was what we call him. He was blackout
when he gets
drunk.
blackout drunk, we call him Wayne.
He fucking looked at me and just started bawling. He started crying so hard because he couldn't go see Disturbed on their first concert.
Oh my god!
And he didn't talk to me for a year and a half. He wouldn't talk to me over that shit.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Crying about it?
Yeah, no, he was bawling. He fucking went in the bathroom, locked the door,
man.
started pouting. He was talking about slitting his wrist for not getting to see Disturbed, bro.
Oh, so fucking good.
Damn. Wow. I mean, I know he's digging.
So now whenever we joke with him about him, I kind of look out of the corner of my eye because
Like you gonna be all right?
Wow. Yeah, that's good stuff there, man. Anybody else have any
I
good
ain't got nothing right now, dude.
Yeah.
I don't have anything right now.
All right, well, very good. That's all right. That was a good one, though. Now, tonight we got a good killer cage match to do. It's always fun to do these. We have a list of 70 killers that we've come up with, 70 objects. They're kind of crazy. And then 15 variables. And we have the listeners pick some random numbers and then help us out. And tonight,
man,
Chris, we got a good matchup tonight, man.
Yeah, once again, we have Mr. Ted Bundy, the man that all the women think is beautiful.
Right, right.
And then we got Timothy McVeigh, the psycho that wants to blow up a building with a daycare center.
Right.
So they're going with that. And then, fuck.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see those two fight to death in a cage. But we got some listeners to thank, Joey, again. Who do we got to thank out there that gave us some random numbers?
He keeps on rolling.
He does.
Mr. Cody Durst. Such
Fucking
a huge fan of our show.
He is.
Nikki Judy and also Aaron Stewart gave the random numbers.
Awesome. Thank you for providing those guys. They'll be fighting to the death with two objects, CK. What do we got tonight?
Samurai sword and a nail gun with endless nails.
Oh.
And the variables, Donald Trump high as hell with a machete.
That's fucking dangerous.
Donald Trump high as hell with a machete.
Now, you got to specify.
Damn.
High as hell on what?
We'll say weed.
All
He's
right,
just
all right.
stoned, okay?
All right.
So, yeah, fighting to death with a samurai sword, a nail gun with endless nails. That just sounds like it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
And a variable is Donald Trump high as a motherfucker with a machete. Yeah. So
I've told them stories before. I've shot myself with a nail gun. It hurts.
yeah. Chris, what are you thinking with this one, man? I mean, Bundy and McVeigh. McVeigh was a pretty tall dude.
Yeah.
Plus, he was military.
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking in a fight, McVeigh is going to just whip his ass.
Yeah, in a straight up fight, I'll go with McVeigh. But also, I feel like having the military training, if he's got a fucking nail gun, if he grabs that nail gun with endless nails, and he just, because like you could fucking shoot that thing and hit
Well,
shit.
yeah, dude.
And if Bundy gets that samurai sword, I think McVeigh is gonna shoot the shit out of him with a nail gun. He's never getting close to him with the fucking samurai sword. Old Don's gonna be sitting over there with that machete, like, just not even caring.
I'm wondering if he's gonna be so high,
yeah,
like,
he's just high as hell,
like
just sitting
glued
there
to
like,
the couch, like he's not getting
dude,
up.
You guys fight it out. I'll figure it out later.
Or what do you think, Joey? Would Trump get up with that machete and get kind of crazy?
You know, the flat out answer is on a one-on-one fight with the two. Of course, I'm going to go with McVeigh, I think, over Bundy. But
Bundy's smart though, and wiry.
In this circumstance, I think what's going to happen is Donald Trump's going to have that blunt rolled up over there.
Oh.
And, you know, Ted Bundy was all into politics. He appreciated that shit, looked up to that. So I think he would be a huge Trumper.
Okay.
So he would probably go fucking hook up with him somehow.
Smoke up
So
on that
between the
blunt.
two of them, one of them's going to end up with either the samurai sword or the nail gun, because either one of them's going to fuck you up.
Right.
So then I think between the two of them, they're going to take over McVeigh.
Yeah.
But one-on-one, McVeigh's going to whip his ass, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. CK, what do you think on this one, man?
McVeigh gets the nail gun and just fucking starts shooting Bundy and fucking takes care of him. And Trump he's just going to be sitting there fucking playing with the sword, and he's going to take himself out.
All right.
Yeah, he might cut himself lethally and just bleed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, personally, I think McVeigh is definitely going to win this one, just physically a much bigger dude.
plus with the military training and the weapons and all that. If Bundy can get a hold of the sword or the nail gun, I think it's a game changer. But I think McVeigh will be physically able to get it either out of his hands or pick it up first.
Hell yeah.
So it's a good one, though. Always fun to do some Killer Cage match. I always like when we do those live.
Yeah.
We get some good discussions going on stage.
I can't wait till Justin comes back again because I like having the guests fucking on the spot. Like, what's up, guy?
Speaking of Justin Morris, a listener that was in here the other day when we did the Bruiser Brody episode, and he was saying he really wanted to come back. So we're looking to have him back here in the next couple weeks. We'll let you guys know. It might be next week or it might be the week after, so it's coming up. But that's always cool. And yeah, we mentioned, Stephanie up in Toledo going to Shakers and that her three sisters were there. That is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And, they're all wearing Murder Metal Mayhem shirts. And
so thanks for the support, ladies.
Huge support. I mean, Shakers is such a cool place. I mean, Bob Weiss at Shakers does he sponsors the Brutal Rewinds. We've got one coming up on the wood chipper murderer, Richard Crafts. That's going to be cool.
From Connecticut, baby.
That's right. That's right. Divorce Connecticut style, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But we're going to do an update on him, and that's going to be a Brutal Rewind. But those are sponsored by Shakers exclusively. And so, you can check Shakers out at shakerscigarbar.com, or you can book a tour on hangmantours.com. So just a great place. They got outdoor seating. They do the outdoor Dahmer tour, so there's nothing wrong with going and doing that. You're not going to be inside if the pandemic is concerning to you. So check it out, support the cause, and thanks again to Stephanie and her sisters and friends who I think she said they were sisters, but I'm not 100%. But it was awesome, all four of them up there at Shakers, supporting Murder Metal Mayhem.
Having a good time.
Supporting Shakers, so that's awesome. All right, well, very good, guys. I think we've done plenty of mayhem tonight.
Yes, sir.
Time to move into some outro.
What you looking at? Born a fucking loser, acting like a twat. Talking Alvarado in a life you joke. Walking like a loser, gonna bust your nose.
Hell yeah, man. Some Venom, Dark Knight off their last one. That's newer stuff. Certainly sounds a lot better than the old black metal stuff, which is good shit, but the recording quality.
They could have played with shit.
Terrible, yeah.
I saw this. I saw this meme on one of the reptile pages that I'm on.
Yeah.
And it says, what's the difference between Venom and Poison? It says one's black metal, one's glam metal.
Nice. That's good. That's good. All right. Well, we got bumper music tonight by Sacred Reich, Venom, and Chrysix. Of course, Chris CK's intro music is
also by Chrysix.
Hell yeah, dude. And Murder Metal Mayhem's intro is by who there, Joey?
Low 12.
Fuck yeah. I actually was listening to the last Low 12 album, which was 6. I was jamming. I got that YouTube Music app and was checking it out. I haven't heard it for like 2 years.
Right.
So I had a drive, and I was just jamming that whole album, and I was thinking, man, this fucking slams. It's kind of a shame that we broke up only a couple of months after it came out, because we really didn't get a chance to play out the material as much as I would have liked, and we would have done the whole thing in its entirety with intros and stuff we did with This Side Toward Enemy.
Right.
So anyway, good times, but I know I get occasionally people from the Low 12 days will contact me and ask about reunion shows and that kind of thing. And actually the Low 12 episode, which we did about a few months ago with the feature on John Wayne Gacy, is in our top 10. I think it's number 4 or 5 in most listened to episodes.
Yeah, it was
in
the
January.
1 year or the 100? That was the 1 year.
No, that was the
Right?
the Low 12 episode was a special episode on Gacy, but it wasn't the 1 year.
It
We
wasn't?
recorded it in January, but the episode came out early in February.
Okay.
So
All right.
So yeah, if you missed it, go check it out because a lot of people dig on that. Huge thanks, of course, to our friend Tony Campagna from Spellbound
Fucking A.
Effects and Art. Amazing shit. He's
Once
a sponsor. Churns out the fucking sickness, man. I mean, everything he does just turns the fucking brutal. He's got one hell of a great online catalog. Chris, you're over there messing with Spike.
Yeah, I got to get him from
The
a different
amazing
angle.
fucking head on a spike in the middle of our table from Tony. So go check out his Facebook page.
This is straight up Vlad the Impaler victim, sort of.
It is very much.
Chris was saying that he wished that the spike was like, would you say 4 inches taller because your ass hits the fucking head when you sit on it?
Yeah, that's exactly what. I don't like it, dude. It sucks.
So definitely go check out Tony's website and all his sick skills, spellboundeffectsandart.com. Check it out today. Thanks, everybody listening. My fucking God, I was looking at the top 10 today. We got fucking Hornsby, South Wales in Australia and Lillehammer, Opland in Norway in the top 10.
Lillehammer, Norway, fucking A, man.
And Toronto, Canada, Toronto, Ontario in Canada was in the top 10 today. So fucking A. Chicago still tops the list, but we do appreciate everybody that listens. And it's always nice to see new people getting in on this.
And I'm glad that fucking Norway's fucking interesting.
That's
'cause
awesome.
Their black metal is fucking
Oh, hell
Norway,
yeah,
bro.
man. Yeah, and they would like the 50th episode because he did the feature on Mayhem.
Yes,
so.
sir.
Dude,
all right.
did you see fucking, just real quick on Mayhem because Goremonger here loves sharks. Fucking lady was killed in Maine by a
Dude,
great white shark.
yeah,
I saw
Maine?
you posted that
Yeah,
today.
dude, whenever I saw, because that's the first fatality by shark in Maine ever.
That's fucking
And whenever
crazy.
I saw it, I was like, it had to have been a great white because they've been moving up the Atlantic for fucking years now.
Right.
And
I know you follow sharks,
dude, I
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
sharks,
Yeah.
A, but B, like, my family lives in Maine, like off the islands up there, so that's where I would go, like, every summer and shit. And I never worried about that shit in Connecticut growing up, swimming in the ocean.
Right.
I definitely never, ever fucking worried about it in Maine.
Yeah.
And now you're just like, nope.
Yeah, and then I saw that, but I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
done. Get the
Done.
fuck
Never
outta
getting in
here.
the water there again.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
that was
yeah,
some crazy
that's brutal,
shit.
man.
Yeah.
That is definitely fucking brutal.
One day we'll we could do a special episode just on sharks.
sharks,
People
yeah.
would dig that. I don't
Oh,
know,
I'm
shark
sure they
attacks and
would,
shit.
dude.
Yeah.
I'm sure they
Shark
would.
Week.
Yeah, fuck
Hey,
yeah.
man.
That's a good
That
idea.
is a good idea.
Chris, the first comment there?
We got Greta Van Buren, 64, says, this is my new favorite true crime podcast. I don't listen to a lot of metal, but I think I could be convinced.
Hell
Hey,
yeah.
man, you just get some knowledge. You just got to understand there's grooves to it. Don't worry about what everybody says. Oh, it's just noise, or you can only,
Right.
it's just screaming.
And there's different kinds of
And there's
metal.
different kinds of
So,
metal.
yeah,
exactly.
you could go old
fucking
school.
Pick something, find something.
What you
enjoy
do
it,
is go
and
listen
thrash.
to CK's metal segments and just listen to a couple of the bands he's talking about.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And check them out, dude. So, yeah,
For
thank
sure.
you,
Or
Greta,
his
dude.
Facebook Live.
Yeah.
CK's been
Yes.
doing
Yeah.
Facebook Live on
Lives.
Thursdays. What time, CK, you doing those now?
6:30 now.
Eastern.
6:30.
Eastern
Eastern
Standard Time.
Right.
Eastern Standard Time.
There you go. All right. What's the next one, Joey?
Darren Mason said, "You guys kill it every fucking week."
Fucking A. Thanks,
Nice.
man.
Yeah, we
Thanks,
do.
Darren.
We
Thanks,
try,
Darren.
man. We try.
CK, what about that next one, dude?
Metal for Life 666
Hell yeah.
commented, I love the feature you did on Nuclear Assault. Love that New York thrash metal, old school.
Fucking
Fuck yeah.
Hell
So do
yeah.
I.
Hell yeah.
I thought it was a good feature.
Yeah,
I
always.
thought so
Excellent.
too. And the last one, Emily Anderson commented, I heard you were doing Dahmer. I need to join your Patreon to be able to listen to that, right? And
Yes,
that is
you do.
exactly right.
And the answer is, yes, you do.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the Dahmer episode the week of the 18th, and that will be an exclusive Patreon only. That weekend after that, they'll be able to listen. We're going to have the interview with Bob Weiss, John Borowski. It's going to be really awesome, but it is only a Patreon episode. So go support the show, patreon.com/Murder Metal Mayhem. And we link to this, of course, in the episode description, so you can get it that way. $3 a month. You get to join the 666 Club. You get all that new stuff earlier than everybody else. VIP access. It's fucking awesome. And you're going to get to hear the Dahmer episode and the other ones we're going to do. We're talking about doing this with a few of the other big name serial killers and even some other topics we've been talking about. So it's going to be amazing. You don't want to miss it. Join the club and be a member. So
join us.
That's right. Join us.
Join us.
Or the Slayer thing backwards, Slingshot.
Yeah. right.
Hot hell awaits.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget to check out murdermetalmayhem.com. Listen to all the episodes. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Go check out the Murder Metal Mayhem YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a new commercial. That's going to be coming out soon. I got some really funny ideas on that, so that'll be good. You can also go to PeteAltieri.com if you want to pick up one of my books. You can get them on Amazon, but if you buy them from me, you get them signed and a free poster and bookmark with it. So better off get them from me. But if you want to go to Amazon, you can do it that way. I get like 7 cents a copy. So I got a statement the other day for like $4, and it was like I sold like 30 copies. I'm like, really?
That's all?
So yeah, you don't get a whole lot.
That's $1 more, and it's a $5 footlong from Subway.
That's right. And that's what I usually eat before the podcast. So there you go. We can't let them go, though, without hearing a karaoke song. Now, due to all the computer drama I went through this weekend, I was not able to record a song. However, I came up with a good one. This is one we used when we did the DC Sniper or one of those road killing, roaming killer episodes. So crank this shit up. And until next time, keep one foot in the gutter.
And your fist on a gun, spree killing.
On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. And I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Going places that I've never been. Seeing things that I may never see again. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Like a band of gypsies, we go down the highway. We're the best of friends, insisting that the world keep turning our way. And our way is on the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends, and I can't wait to get on the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends, and I can't wait to get on the road again. And I can't wait to get on the road again. Yeehaw! Motherfucker!
Mother, man.